Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here on tonight with two amazing pastors in our city, in the city of Monticello and in the county of Drew. And I'm more so excited that through our religious committee that we are hosting our first event for the MLK celebration that's hosted by our Drew County NAACP Branch 6042. I'm Clarissa Pace. I am the branch president. And tonight we are going to present to you Justice and Equality God's Way. I have Pastor Daryl Daniels with me, and I have Pastor Jerome Pace. Y'all probably know I know him, but I have him with me tonight. And I am very excited because we're doing some things. I do want to say that in Drew County, for this first year of my position as the president, we've been able to go another level with our celebration. This event is one of those levels. And then the other is that we have the Drew County schools, Monticello and Drew Central, who are actually observing Martin Luther King in certain ways in the school district this week. So due to COVID, we were unable to have our speakers on the ground like we had planned, but we thank God that each of the school districts have actually let us know that we can come in later because we can make sure that history is being wrought and it's being told at any time. So as we're watching the numbers, they have already invited us back into the school district whenever everything calms down. And we're praying that our schools and our teachers and principals and students are safe and they are covered during this time, because they are still trying to push through the pandemic to give education to our children. So we're excited about that. Now, these are the two additional events that we have added to our celebration. We also had to cancel both of our basketball celebrations. We had a youth tournament, and then there was supposed to be a alumni basketball event, but we were unable to have that too. But we are still moving on. Thank God for technology, and thank God for these men of God who have joined me on tonight so that we can have this discussion, justice and equality God's way. I think we want to start with Pastor Jerome Pace. Pastor Pace, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to ask Pastor Daryl Daniels to give us some background on himself.
Well, I would sing that song that I come from a poor family, but the Lord been good to me. but to be professional, Jerome Pace, originally from Stevens, Arkansas, number 8 of 9 children, graduated from Stevens High School, graduate of Henderson State University, graduate of Harding University. 36, I think, years, somewhere along that, stop counting after a while. 36-year educator, maybe 2 years away from letting the young folks run with it. Pastor of the Great I Am Church right here in Monticello, Arkansas, 300 North Main. Father of many, husband of one, loves the Lord.
Amen. I like the way you put that. All right, Pastor Daryl, we better move on to you folks. Somebody get in trouble, right?
Amen. First of all, I just want to thank you, Madam President, for just doing an awesome job with our local branch of the NAACP. I just thank God for you, and I'm glad. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak on this this subject. But as it was already stated, I'm Daryl Daniels. I was born and raised in Fountain Hill, Arkansas. I attended school there in Fountain Hill, Arkansas, graduated there in '98. I later attended Margaret's Hair Academy, where I got my diploma in cosmetology, where my wife and I, we run a salon here in town. Also, I started preaching in 2004. I was licensed in 2005, started pastoring in 2008. I'm still pastoring today. I'm the pastor and founder of the Word Church located here, and I'm gonna give that address out because I see Pastor Dunn. I need to plug it in at 205. That's 205 South Maple here in Monticello. So in 2019, I graduated from the United Theological Seminary Bible College there in Monroe, Louisiana, with a bachelor's degree in theology. I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in theology. So I just thank God. I'm a community guy. I play as much as part as I can in the community to help the young people. And so I'm just glad to be here.
All right, and we are happy to have you here, both of you. Much respect even to my husband, who is my pastor, in home, at home, and away from home. Imagine that, ain't that something? And so I'm excited about that. But listen, as you guys were talking, I did think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I was born in 1965, and if the record serves right, he actually was killed in the year that I was born. And but it affected, it was just like it was fresh. I can remember being 5 or 6 years old, and it was so fresh because my mom, my grandmother, they have always fought for justice and for equality. And believe it or not, I'm a native of El Dorado, Arkansas. And in the 70s, as much as the laws had changed and he had been killed, JFK had been killed, believe it or not, I attended a segregated kindergarten. I was actually in the 70s in El Dorado, and knowing that this is the South, I'm sure that shouldn't be a shocker, but I was still in El Dorado in a segregated school. From there, when we integrated, we were actually bused over out of our neighborhood into Mermill Heights. Some people that's watching this may know where Mermill Heights is located, but I became a student at Mermill Elementary School. When we got to elementary school, but y'all, we were put, or a lot of us were put in the lower level class. We were automatically placed in a tin building as if we did not have any education. I'm saying this because this is still fresh, and I'm only 56 years old. And to know that even I was affected by segregation, by injustice, and by inequality and all of the above, it would seem that that by the time that he was gone and John F. Kennedy was gone, maybe everything had changed and people were opening up their hearts and minds and not treating us different as minority people. But it was not so. It was not so. We were put in lower level schools, deemed, listen, let me tell you this. I also was placed in reading. I was placed in the summer school. I had to go to summer school for reading every summer in elementary. Many of us as African-American students were placed over in summer school because our reading was not up to par. The advantage though, and I thank God that he's always had a hand on my life, the advantage is since they put me in summer school and elementary school, I just got used to going to summer school every summer. So I just continued to go to summer school, and at our school, we could take our classes in advance. We could graduate. So I became an early graduate of El Dorado High School. My quality points, I had more quality points. So it kind of remind you, if you go all the way back to slavery, how things that were meant for our bad turned out for our good. And so when I come on and I talk about and we talk about MLK, yes, this whole movement has touched my life, and I know that there are several others who have been touched early on, and certainly those that came before us who lost their lives during the movement as they fought. And this is why we are on this topic tonight, because I just believe that if we're going to make a difference, if we're going to make a change, we've got to have these conversations, and they can't be out of our really out of our fleshly understanding, because flesh, just to be honest with you, would make us all pick up a gun. So we've got to have some instructions that come from God as to how can we make this movement relevant today, and how or what difference we can make, and what does God have to say about that difference. Okay. And so that's why you guys are here with me on tonight, so that we can have that discussion. I think our first question I want you guys to discuss tonight is, if you can define justice in your own words. What is justice? And define even equality. Either one of you can go first.
Go ahead, Pastor.
All right. When I think about justice, one word comes to my mind, and that word is requirement. So to me, justice is requirement. In other words, there must be a legal requirement for any laws that are broken.
Mhm.
So justice is a requirement, so justice to me is the fulfillment of the law. So it's the fulfillment of the law. In other words, justice gives the law what it's asking for. So if justice, if the law is asking for a trial, if the law is asking for a fine, if the law is asking for prison, whatever the law is asking for the crime that's been committed, justice offers that to the law. So it meets the requirement. So if the requirement is not met, then justice is not done. So that's what justice is to me.
Wow. Pastor Jerome.
Well, one word kind of comes to mind when I think of justice from the natural standpoint is accountability. Because that's what it should hold everyone to, is accountability. I mean, there's always, when we used to take the young people to the parole board and we would hear the parolees talk, the one thing that stands out in the interest was present choices determine future consequences. And that's what justice should do. It should lead people to think before they make decisions.
Wow. Oh, wow. I like both of these definitions. I'm looking at the last part that you said, Pastor Darrell, is justice gives the law what it asks for. And then Pastor Jerome, in lieu of accountability, basically that sounded the same, how you close that off, because at this point, at this time, in this season in our country, we have laws that are in place that are supposed to govern how we treat one another. I guess some of the things that I've learned about the law is in order for justice to take place, it's the person who is extending or who's exercising that law that's going to truly make the difference. There's an alarming statistics that show that we still have injustice when it comes to the law between those who are African Americans and those who are non-African Americans in our prison systems and in our courts. And it's really sad because I have spent some time being in court and sitting in the back and watching how it seems that justice can be unfair. Justice
Mhm.
can be unfair at times, and only because I don't think the law was set up for that, but only because it's who that is administrating that makes the difference, if
Right.
that makes sense.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, if that makes sense. So on that note, bring this relative to the movement of Dr. Martin Luther King and his fight towards justice and equality.
You know, I think it goes back to that word equality. It's supposed to be fairness.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be fairness, no matter your race, your status, or your creed, no matter your position in life. Equality should be fairness. Equality should ensure that everybody is treated fair, no matter who they are or whose they are.
Mhm.
So no matter who you are, whose you are, no matter who your parents are, no matter what type of family you come from, justice should ensure that everybody is treated equally all the way down the line. Because justice is supposed to be blind.
Mhm.
That's what they say. Justice is supposed to be blind, but I believe she kind of peeking up from underneath that blindfold. One eye is kind of still open and passing out justice to who she wants to pass it out to.
Wow.
And the scales are supposed to be balanced, but I believe that one side outweighs the other. So Dr. King, I believe he had a vision to see everybody treated fairly. And ultimately that vision, although it's popular with us, it was not popular with those that were in power. And that's the reason why we celebrate him today.
Pastor Jerome?
Well, it's a lot I could say, but let me keep it to this standpoint. From what I've learned in my years of education, when it comes down to fairness, unless it's made an open book, because it would appear for one kid that may get extra time to complete an assignment. You don't know that person's handicaps, or you don't know their shortcomings. So because the system has been breached, whereas we don't always do what's best for the person that needs that little bit of grace, that little bit of extra. We do for whomever thinks that they can give that person a advantage. So in that aspect of it, when we talk about equality and fairness, sometimes people need that unspoken little bit that maybe you don't get or I don't get. Sometimes somebody needs that, and it appears to be unfair. But what equality should do is not just give, like Pastor Dale say, don't make no difference who your last name, how much money you have, what your parents drive, or what title you have. What it should do is eliminate all that. But what we found out is that our system has been breached. And because our system has been breached, and that's why I believe that even what Martin Luther was able to do, peaceful protest, it's almost to the point now where you can't protest. The very thing that he did to expose these unfairness,
Mhm.
because the inequality that has been set up and has been allowed to be put in place, it's almost like the things that he did then. If you do them now, it's like you trying to start trouble.
That's right.
Wow.
But all you really want to do is just expose what's
Mhm.
not equal. I
Mm.
mean, there should be a balance.
Mhm.
Should be a balance, and there should not be any dark secrets or dark myths about what the law says.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
because we've allowed, I'm trying to be real
You
professional,
ain't got to be political
because
correct. I
we've
mean,
allowed the system,
mhm.
the people that's in the positions, because they have become greedy,
Ooh,
because they have become power seekers,
control.
because they have become certain people pleasers, because they have become people that's all about me, mine, and what I can do for me. Our
Mhm.
system needs a major overhaul.
And you know what, Pastor, and I believe I can speak freely, probably more so than you can, given your current job and everything like that. But I'll say this, I think a lot of it is fear.
Mhm.
It's fear because people, or the powers that be, so to speak, have saw what we've done with a half chance.
Mhm.
Imagine if we're given a full opportunity.
That's right.
So we look at what we've accomplished with partial opportunity. Look
Mhm.
what we've accomplished with partial education. Look
Right.
what we've accomplished with being put in the shed, like
Mhm.
Sister Pastor Pace said. She was
Mhm.
put in the shed and forced to like act as if she was not civilized enough to be with everybody else. And look where she is now.
Mhm.
So with being kind of spoon fed partial opportunities. So I think it's more fear than anything, that if you put me and somebody else beside each other, that person might realize that they're not as fast as a runner as they thought they were. You know,
Right.
every car is fast when it's running by itself
Mhm.
or when it has a head start. But when
Mhm.
you put yourself alongside someone with that same opportunity, sometimes you'll begin to see just how many gifts that God has placed in those people. And a lot of people already know that. And sadly, I think we just now discovering just how special we are as a people. And given a full opportunity, I mean, the world, the world had to move
Different.
out of our way.
Mhm.
That's right. It would be
Amen.
different. And once you
Yeah.
say that, Pastor Dara, I get to thinking about, I think we have, my mama used to say, we have become laxed in Zion, whatever that means. We have become relaxed as a people, as a people, because where did that come from? Since Dr. Martin Luther King and all of the heroes that we look up to have fought so hard and lost their lives and were spat on and were talked about and abused and you name it, called everything but a child of God. How is it that we can be in 2022? And if what you're saying is that fear is overtaking us, that's a real issue. Because when you said fear, I thought about slavery. That was the whole or one of the major bases as to why slavery could last so long anyway, is because somebody manipulated the minds of the people into thinking that they were not strong enough, they were not wise enough and talented enough to be as gifted, to do as much and to excel. And those were the people who were intimidated by who God made us to be, by who God made us to be. And that, how can we get to 2022? Or what do y'all think put us in this position now? Because this is happening. It's happening.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Well, the thing that come to my mind right off the bat is that scripture says, once you've been strengthened, go and strengthen your brother.
Mhm.
That's the thing that comes in mind when you ask it. I believe that's what has happened. I believe that we've become comfortable being better than what we used to be.
Mm.
If that makes any sense. I don't have to come in the back door no more. I can come in the front. That's enough.
Mm.
You know, I can go get kind of what I want now, and that's enough. And because we have become kind of like that lizard that can change colors anytime
Wow.
and blend in, we feel like we've accomplished much. But
Mhm.
in essence, we really have not accomplished anything at all, because if you look at things, you'll see that history repeats itself.
Wow.
And if we're not careful, we may not have the chains on physically, but right here, we still got the chains on.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah, we still have them on. So I believe that what has happened is that we have not gotten sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm.
That's right.
Because what happens is you can have the house, but you can't have the property. If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
They're going to, unless you come together and become unified and said, okay, and you see a lot of, and I hate to be so blunt, but you see a lot of professions say, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna get us a chain of hotels, us. We're gonna go and we're gonna get us a chain of doctors. We're gonna have a chain of lawyers. So whereas we know that we're getting treated fairly and equally, and it's our voice that's being heard and not us speaking the voice of someone else, if that makes sense.
Ooh.
Yeah, it makes it. And I think going back to what you said, like people have become comfortable
Mhm.
in our I guess you could say in somewhat of our newfound successes.
Yes, sir.
But I think it was I heard Pastor Ricky Hicks, I believe he spoke at one of the MLK programs several years ago, and he said something that stuck with me. I don't know if it was an original statement, but maybe, but he said it, and I want to give him credit for it. He said we owe civil rent. He said we owe civil rent, and I believe a lot of times, just like certain groups are fearful or afraid, I think we're forgetful. Like we forget often that we enjoy these luxuries because of what Dr. King and all of the other freedom warriors done for us. And so we still need to have in our mind that, you know, I'm living in a house that Dr. King built, and I owe civil rent. I can't live rent free. So by not going to the schools, not dealing with your local branch, not being involved in certain activities, functions, marches, meetings, and I know we can't do everything, but when we find our hand to do stuff, we ought to do it as if we're doing it unto the Lord. And that's how we honor the people that came before us, is by taking time out, taking some of our money and investing in our community and our businesses and educating ourselves so that iron can sharpen iron. But you know, 2 dull knives in the drawer still leave stuff in the house uncut.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, so I don't care who we think we are. We have to get to the point where we can sharpen each other. And so I just think we just need to remember that we owe that civil rent, and we need to pay it. And if we pay it, then maybe my son and my daughter will pick up the cross and pay it after I'm gone. But we can't never stop paying that rent, you know.
Yeah. Pastor Darrell, I've been watching this series and it's called The Resurrection. I think my wife has kind of gotten interested in it also, But just you saying that rent, just a quick insert is that how soon people forget what it costs for us to have what we have.
Mhm.
That's right.
You know, once that person is dead and gone, it's like, okay, it's like they're forgotten immediately. And I see this in young people so quick. It's like they're entitled. No, what you have came at a price. And if
Mhm.
you're gonna continue to enjoy it, you're gonna have to pay a price for it also. So
Mhm.
that sense of entitlement that didn't cost us nothing,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it is going to be the thing that costs us everything.
That's right. That's right.
Ooh. Y'all are saying some powerful things because I want to, you talked about being comfortable, forgetful, and even iron sharpening iron, coming back and helping others. And then Pastor Daniels, you talked about the involvement in an ACP, our local branch. As I was sitting here and you said that, I was thinking, that's why we have worked like we have worked, and we need more to work with us because we have to teach our people. That's the motive. That's the mission. We have to teach them to be stronger. When you mentioned housing, I thought about one of our meetings and see people are buying homes, but they don't realize that there's a racial disparity in purchasing homes. Uh, People actually, we can do USDA. As African Americans, we can get a USDA loan and buy a home because that's 100% no down payment. And it seems to be great. But what happens is everything rolls into that. We don't know the interest, and we're paying for a bigger loan in the end. And so we are fighting economically even
That's
to
right.
teach people that save money, save to where you can pay that 20% down, and you can pay down your interest rate, and you can go get the home that you want. But did you know that with some lenders, some banks, they actually have a difference? They have a red zone and different colors that they place people in. Even if you have the credit score, you have the cash flow that you need, you have everything in place, they are denying those people who are in red, because they're saying if you're in this group or that group, you are more likely to default on a loan. So, hey, we're not going to give you the money, or we're not going to give you the best type of loan that you can get. And so we have become comfortable with, matter of fact, if we had an economic day, how many of us would even show up? How many of us would take the time? Now, if we had a party with a DJ, everybody gonna be there, some liquor. But that's the kind of stuff that throws shade on where we should be going. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but those are the things, since y'all mentioned it, those are the things that are hidden. That is what we are trying to do. When you want to go into the education system, you want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to know that there are funds, there are scholarships that are available and where you can get them, and that there are scholarships and you don't have to be a 4.0. But there are other people that know that there are funds out there. And then sometimes we get into me, myself, and I, and my foe, and no mo kind of situation. And so we make sure our children in our household are taken care of, but we don't want to get our hands dirty like my grandmother did, and like my mother did, and my auntie, and some people in the community that I know who took that time and says, listen, if you have a learning disability, I don't mind after my job, I don't mind after school, putting you in there. And we're going to go over this lesson. We're going to teach you. Those are the things that I grew up with in El Dorado, because we have what we call the African American Society Club. And those are the things that when it comes to talent, when it comes to learning how to play the piano and the organ and the orchestra and all of that, y'all, it was plenteous. But what I have noticed in Drew County, we don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have that. And we have some real issues behind that. And that's why the mission has to be put before the people. But I appreciate you guys are stirring up a lot, because I even think about Brown versus Ferguson, and how when you go back to that it took 2 times. What if somebody gave up? It took 2 times in order for us to see that was injustice in separating books and separating us out of school. We got Little Rock Central and these things that happen, and somebody's got to get the job done. May not be everybody, but somebody got to lead the line. That's why I appreciate you men with me on tonight, because somebody's got to lead out in order to make a difference. Well, I want to go on to, we talk about justice and equality God's way. A lot of people, I don't think understand how God treated injustice and inequality. But I know I've read the Bible that he wasn't too pleased when people mistreated other people. The Old Testament has a lot of things that talk about that. And I'm gonna go to some of the questions that I ask you all, because I do want to hear from that. We talk about Dr. King was a God-fearing man. And so, Pastor Darrell, you said he had a vision. And I tell you, he had a vision, and that vision came from God. He was a God-fearing man, no matter how they tried to smear his reputation, break up his family in the midst. That's just how the enemy does, right? To keep us from excelling and getting the message out. He still stayed on that journey, and his words, his quotes, and his letters were written from a perspective of how God saw things and how God required things. What are some of the excerpts that from either or that come to your mind that he may have stated that might resonate with you today?
One of my favorite, and I quote it often, when Dr. King says that he says it's our moral duty to protest any unjust law. So he said we have a moral obligation to protest any law that's unjust. And then he describes what unjust and what just is. And I'll read that. It says that any law that uplifts human personality is just. Any law that degrades human personality is unjust. So he says anytime there's a degrading spirit that's rolling around, making one personality or one human being look lesser than another, he says we got a moral obligation to stand up. We can't be quiet. We can't hide in our churches. We can't, hide behind our pulpits or in our suits or in our homes. But at some point, it ought to be something bubbling on the inside of us that make us want to stand up and protest for what's right. And it needs to be peaceful, but at the same time, it needs to be with the point to where you calling those individuals out who are degrading other people. And that won't be peaceful for them.
Right.
That's what I think. That's where we get that term, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Like, I'm not going to let you rest if you operating in injustice. Like, I'm not going to let you rest. We shouldn't let you just go home and get rest and go to sleep at night. Like, we need to be up front, up in your face all the time. I don't have to hit you or anything like that. But at the same time, I need to be out in front, letting everybody know that an injustice has been done against a crime against humanity has been committed. And people shouldn't get peace or sleep peaceful or rest peaceful anytime they operate in that spirit. And so that was my favorite one. It's our moral duty to protest any unjust law.
Okay.
And Pastor, you see that all the time when somebody do somebody wrong. go on Snapchat. My old friend called that free advertisement. And we will do each other like that, but we won't do inequality like that. I mean, if you say something about me, or if you have the same Jordans on I have on, or if you driving the same car I drive, or if you look at me wrong, I'll call you out every day. But we won't do injustice like that. We won't let it, we'll let it just pass over and get a free pass. But we won't do inequality like that. And that bothers me sometimes. And I know it's the fear that people walk in of being excommunicated or losing their jobs or being not a part of the clique. But what they don't realize, that's what God calls us to.
That's right.
I mean, when you follow him, you're not going to be well liked. You're going to be mistreated. You're going to be talked about. You're going to be rejected from your own folk. I'm not talking about the color. I'm talking about the folk. Sometimes it's your brother, your blood sister, all those people, because they feel as though that you think you're better. And in essence, you really are better because you're not what you used to be. So I am better, not to the standpoint of what you equated to, but I am better.
That's right.
But it's something that I don't want to speak negative, but it almost feels like it's a lost cause. But one of my quotes that I like that he wrote was, it talked about, it says, even if I knew tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I still plant a tree.
Ooh.
Wow, that's good.
Ooh.
Good. I'm gonna wait 3 years and I'm gonna use.
Yeah. You have to wait 3 years. And that's what people lack. If it's not affecting their house, oh, that's them over there. But if the storm keep on blowing, eventually it's gonna blow your way. And then you have that, whoa, it's me, ain't about me. But it's for me, it's hard to watch. Although sometimes I want to shake my hand and shake my head, it's hard to watch somebody drown. I'll let you take on a little water. I'm gonna let you take on a little water. Sometimes folk need to take on a little water. But it's hard for me to just let people drown. And I guess that's the educator in me from being able to see, not right now, but to see 10 years from now what that kid has become. Because, sometimes think instantaneously. We have this right now mentality, and we know that God sometimes have to let things play out. Well, not sometimes, he let things play out. It happens in this time, in this season. If we don't faint, if we don't give up, we're going to reap. And I believe sometimes if we don't let that tree develop like it's supposed to develop, then the roots, they don't hold.
That's right.
Anything come along, it just blows that tree down. So I think when they get good roots and when they have a good foundation, when they've learned to lean not to their own understanding, they've learned to hold on, when they've learned to trust God, when they've learned that they can't do anything apart from God but fail, when they've learned it for themselves, I believe then is when change comes. So I believe that we have to plant regardless of what we think it should look like or what we think it should be like. And because at the end of the day, if I lose, you lose.
That's right.
Guys, that's quite interesting because, you're saying that in essence, we need to expose where there's injustice, where there's inequality, we need to expose it. At the same time, I do want to remind us, and y'all can speak to this, because I've had that. We get labeled,
Oh, yeah.
posting on the Facebook. I can remember, in our own community, our leaders, our pastors who have sent the word out. I want people to get off that social media. Don't be saying this. Because you talk about people being afraid, because if we can't stand up for one another, if we can't say, don't come to me about sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so, because they have that right to protest. They have that right to be upset. And
Mhm.
what you need to do is you need to check your insides to see if what you
Mhm.
did was truly equal, was truly full of justice, or was it out of malice? It was something I learned while watching a movie. I think it wasn't a movie, it's a series called Justice. And I was watching it, and this is my first time. I'm behind. I know other people know, but about unconscious biasness. All the judges had to go through a training that discussed how we can be biased unconsciously, how decisions were made in court. You don't even know, and how that bias is shaped by our environment, what we have been taught, how we have been, because racism in itself, I believe, is a taught situation. Now it's a monster that grows, and it can go from generation to generation, but it can be taught. We had a situation locally, but what we understood the students to that needed to understand is that, here's another word, the children, we get where we're told that we're acting like we're victims all of the time. The thing of it is, nobody was conscious. We have to be conscious of who we are around, not to put us in bondage, but to think about that other person. And that's some of the issues when we are trying to expose the inequality and the justice. We get labeled as radical victims. Somebody called me a troublemaker. I ain't the only one. I'm not the only one. I never made no trouble for them. But we ourselves, y'all talk that this is amazing, because this is how our communities are shaped. And so then we don't come together for the cause, because after the enemy has placed that thing out there to say we always acting like a victim, we don't have to act like that, this wasn't done to us, or we're troublemakers, or we're radical, we're out of sync, and we should be quiet, and we should be political and work behind closed doors. That's how we respond. Go ahead,
And
Pastor.
you know what's, sister, I think I hear people say that, like I hear people say, they say stuff like, you can't fault me for what my grandfather did or great grandfather did, or you've never been a slave or anything like that. But I did a little time in the streets, so we have what is in the streets. They have a law called that you get in trouble with somebody, you don't have to do it directly, but they have what is called a charge partner. Or if somebody does something and you reap the benefits from it, or if you know that they done it and you don't stand up to it or report it or anything, that you become an accessory to that crime. So if my grandfather robbed a bank in 1975, and he put my father through school with it, bought him a car with the money, and everybody know he robbed the bank. My grandfather dies, it goes on. My dad is benefiting from it. My mom is benefiting. But then the owners of the bank come back years later and they say, y'all wouldn't be where you are if your grandfather had robbed that bank. My daddy don't have the right to say, it ain't got nothing to do with me, when he's living from the privilege of
Watch
what my
out, watch
grandfather
out,
did.
watch out, watch out.
So that's the way I look at it. And then you can't get mad at the young man whose livelihood was snatched from him because your grandfather took away something that him and his family had worked hard for, took away his possibility. So you can't tell him 20, 30, 40, 50 years later that don't affect him because it didn't happen to him directly, but it did. Because we understand that even generational, like there's generational wealth, there's also generational hurt, you know. And so and the Bible even says, "Cursed is every man that hangs from a tree." So you look at our culture and where we come from and where we look, and we live and walk within this curse that we trying to get away from because of the things that happened to a lot of our ancestors. So people can miss me with all that. It didn't happen to you. Get over it. All the while they riding around spending cotton money. You spending cotton money. You went to school and you went to all these different universities on cotton money. That my ancestors bent over and bled for without ever being paid. And unless you're gonna give it all back, if you ain't gonna give your money back, then I don't have to give my pain back. And that's the way.
Well, whew, you left me breathless on that one, Pastor. And I'll say in another conversation with a leader of a different race, eventually out of our conversation, they responded, "Yes, I see it." And I said to him, that's all. That's all that is required.
That's right.
Is that you see it. But
That's right.
to come at any of us, the children or anyone, as if they were inhumane, as if they did not have to feel that pain that they were feeling, that injustice and that equality appeared, it happened. You see it every day. The next step is, will you get in the race? Will you get in the race to help fight that? Will you help teach that this is a matter of concern that should be addressed by you personally and seeing how you can change it? So I got y'all to talk, I ain't gonna talk, but I'm gonna say this. Do you think that the root of this situation, the injustice, the equality, we get into where y'all can preach it and bring it home to us and close out, but this thing is rooted spiritually, and explain and go ahead and preach to us a little bit.
Go ahead, Pastor.
Oh Lord. And I said, do you think it's spiritually, and what's the root of it?
Yes. Is this the root of injustice and equality? Is it a spiritual matter?
Most definitely. It's a spiritual matter. It's it's very spiritual because, and you probably hear me quote this all the time, the scripture says, "Must I bear the cross alone and the whole world go free?" No, there's a cross for you and there's a cross for me. And I believe that we're so quick to forget, and I keep going back to that, what the Lord has done for us. Even we go to the scripture where whom the Son set free. I believe if people would accept the works of the cross and what Jesus Christ did for them, then they would put themselves second in the back and try to make this place a better place for those that are coming. That's what I believe. And until we do what the scripture says, until we humble ourselves, turn from our wicked ways. And you know what the rest of the scripture say. Oh man, I could go on and on. We are so detached from God, and know if we detach from God, Old people said wasn't fitting to live and ain't
Wasn't
fitting to
that.
die. We're so nonchalant because of his grace and because of his mercy. We're so relaxed in our own selves. Let me just say it that way. Me, myself, and I. We're so detached from what's really going on. I was telling somebody the other day, the things that's going on, it's an inside job. The things that have crept in, it's an inside job. It is a lot of times when we see it, it's already over. It's already done. I mean, it's a done deal. It come out on news that this is gonna go on. You would be shocked the things that are going on behind the scenes while we just sitting around, not concerned, not getting involved, just believing that, everybody gonna treat you right. Everybody not gonna treat you right. Believe that everybody's gonna do what's right, there's a pain and there's a suffering and there's something that we don't like to endure. That's something we don't like hardships. We don't like to be exposed. We don't like to bleed. We don't like these things. But I believe that that's the true reason, or one of the true reasons, that Christ sacrificed himself for us, to show us that until we die to earthly things,
That's right,
and seek heavenly things, we will never really truly live the way God has really called us to live. That's my 2 cents.
Pastor. There.
What's the question again, sister?
Do we think that justice or injustice and inequality is a spiritual matter?
First of all, when we look at justice, as I stated earlier, justice is a fulfillment of the law. God demonstrated that for us when he sent his son, Jesus. Jesus was the example, and he said it out of his own mouth. I did not come to destroy the law, but I came to fulfill it. So he's a fulfillment of the law. The law required death, because the wages of sin is death. But then God gave us a gift, which was Jesus Christ, his only begotten son. So God had to offer the law what it was asking for. The law was asking for death. God, being who he is, fair. He offers up his son, Jesus. And then he says, to be fair, I'm not going to just offer him for the Jews, but he's for everybody. That for God so loved the world that he gave him, that whosoever will, that's equality, let them come. And Paul says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God and salvation unto them that believe, to the Jew first, but also to the Greek. And he even stretches on, says the barbarians, they can even come, don't really matter. So it's equal. So, but also in scripture, we see how Jesus treats inequality or injustices, especially when they brought the, and you got me preaching, y'all.
That's what I want, come on with it.
Especially when you see where they brought the woman that's caught in adultery. You know, and they told Jesus, you caught it, she was caught in the very act of adultery. Jesus didn't say nothing. We know the story. He just writes on the ground. But I read somewhere that he was writing on the ground to symbolize that the law was written. That they was coming trying to enforce a written law that they themselves had broken. Right. First of all, the woman was presented by herself. Maybe it was one of their homeboys. Maybe it was a good Jew I mean, a good Jewish man that was caught with the woman, and they didn't want to, you
Mhm.
know, air him out. They didn't want him to lose his family. They didn't want him to be stoned to death. So they said, well, we want the law to be enforced, but we only going to enforce it on this certain woman, and we're going to let the man go scot-free. So Jesus saw this injustice. He saw this inequality, and he said, he made them look at themselves. He says, whoever is without sin, cast the first stone. And I think that it's a spiritual matter of the heart, because it's rooted in pride. Pride keeps people from seeing themselves as our equals, for the fear that we might outrun them, or that people will see. When people start to see themselves for who they really are, then we kind of forced to do something about it.
Right.
We forced to drop our stones. We forced to just walk away. And I think if we don't get this pride out, and so that goes back, now it goes back on us. So we you know, we like, and that goes back to when people say we playing the victim. Well, that when we also have to practice equality. You know, we want God to bring us out. We want God to bring us over. We want him to bring us through. We done waded in water and all this. You know, we've sung our spirituals, and it's all about us. But also there has to be a forgiveness component within that, which brings it back full circle to equality. We have to be fair. You know, we have to be fair that if somebody approaches God with a repentant heart, whether they white, Jew, black, it don't matter. If God forgives, then so should we. You know, and so I think it's not only is injustice and inequality a spiritual matter, but unforgiveness is a spiritual matter as well. You know, so if we harbor in unforgiveness, and we don't have to forget, but I think I've told the church, when people say forgive and forget, that's not forgiveness. But forgiveness is choosing to forgive, all the while remembering what you made me feel like. That's what I don't forget it. I don't forget my pain. I don't forget it. You know, I'm not gonna let it go and throw it away. I remember where I came from, remember my hurt. But at the same time, if I want to be connected to God in such a way to where I can grow, I have to forgive, even while remembering what me and my ancestors have gone through. And we have to pray to God, you know, help everybody else come out just like we want to come out. So
I love that, because that's what make the whole thing equal and
yes,
fair. Is that we come to a point that I mean, you said it, accountability. If I had just, you know, we would have been talking all night if I'd have gone in so many other areas, because I even think about women's suffrage, how he fought the affirmative action and what was behind all of that. But now we still can't hold other people hostage, because we do know that the injustices and the inequality is there if they are repentant. I love what you said, because that brings about accountability for our own people. I'm big on accountability. That's why people call me workaholic or whatever, but I don't take things in name only. I don't want to take a position. I don't want to say that I'm gonna get something done in name only, and then don't be accountable for coming through. If I say yes, was what the Bible said, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. I'd rather tell you no than to turn around and make a contract with you and break it. Okay, because that's our order. And that's how we have to begin to see things, even as African Americans. I think what I think about, y'all, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that I don't think anybody can help our community better than we can help our own community by taking that accountability.
That's right.
By making sure that we are up to par when it comes on so many levels. We talk about economics, and we talk about spiritual matters. We've got to go and we got to fight against this war. We're fighting a totally different battle now in our communities that we have never fought before, and that's the people who don't even love God no more. I mean, you know, when I grew up, this teaching, our history was a part of the gospel, was a part of the church community. We didn't rely on other people to teach us about us. And at the same time, the principles that you just talked about, the love, the forgiveness, and all of these things, they were poured into us. Where is that now? Where is that now? So we can't hold anybody else responsible for the things that we are responsible for either, you
That's
know.
right.
And although we have to expose things, but while we're exposing, just know that ourselves will also be exposed in it. What more can we do? What more can we bring to the table that's going to fight this good fight of faith and make some changes God's way? Does either one of you have anything else to say before we close on tonight, according to God's way of justice and equality?
Yeah. I'm just like the disciples on the Mount of Transfiguration. I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad for the invitation. I mean, you guys know how much I love you. And I appreciate all the work that you all are doing. Appreciate your ministry and everything that you're doing for our branch here in Drew County. I mean, we can tell, we can see it. You know, it's out. You've been out in front. I know it's not easy, and then everything that you handle in your political office, which that's another whole deal. But everything that you do behind the scenes, you know, people don't always see it, but I just want to let you know we appreciate you. I know sometimes I'm hard to get in touch with, but I try. I try my best. I try my best, and I thank God. I thank God for each of you. Everything that y'all do for the community, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, and likewise, Pastor Jerome.
Well, I'll just end with this. I think it's in Ephesians where it says, "Wake up, O ye sleeper." Causing for people to wake up and arise. And I think the end of it says, "And Christ will shine on you."
Okay.
So we got to wake up.
Yes, sir.
I mean, if we don't wake up, we'll find ourselves in a worse shape than we are in now. And we don't realize how bad of shape that we're in. And I mean, it's and I guess my faith when I see young people that comes to school with no intention on learning. When I say none. You mentioned something about reading, and it's just not a Black problem. It's a universal problem now. You have kids that not only can't read, but don't want to read. And I guess that's the part of me that kind of makes me pray more. Okay, God, wake them up, 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 wake them up quick. So because you can get so far behind that you'll never, if it's not the Lord's doing, you'll never come out. And people are taking, they're so far behind, they're so frustrated that they're taking the easy way out.
Right.
So that's my concern. That's my prayer, that people will wake up.
Amen.
Pastor Darrell, you had something?
I just wish, as Pastor Pace was talking, I remember, you know, I grew up in the AME church. If anybody know anything about the AME church, like all my life, I grew up in AME church up until I was 18. My mom and a few of us sisters were AME pastors. So we were, AME is very big on education. I mean, to this day, they are very, very big on education. And I remember that I learned to read in the AME church. Like when I say I learned to read, I'm talking about reading out loud. I learned how to put emphasis on phrases and words, because they would stop you and they would say, read that with some power, you know, and all those things. And then it was other people that couldn't read that well, but they would have to read in the church, and we couldn't laugh at them because, you know, they'll whoop you back then.
Yeah.
And by the end of the summer, after Vacation Bible School, you found people that was reading on one level. After Vacation Bible School, they be reading on a different level, all because of the church. It didn't have anything to do with the school, but the church. And so I just like what Pastor Pace just said. I just think as a church, I feel like we do need to wake up and do more to help educate, because where they might not listen to a teacher, maybe they'll listen to a pastor or a youth leader or somebody else that look like them. So that's a weight in my heart that, as he was just speaking, it just jumped out to me that we have to do better. So
and we're better together. So, you know, I was thinking, I think I was telling Pastor Jerome the other day, we would do ourselves an injustice in Drew County for us to compete as churches and ministries, because we have to bring the effort together to get the job done, and to actually see. I don't think one person can see it all, but to add the talent and the time to it so that we can build. And I'm ready for that as well, Pastor Darrell. I am truly ready to be in the fight for that. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Justice and Equality, God's Way. Our celebration continues on Saturday. We will have our Freedom March starting at 10 a.m. We will start the march from the Monticello Library to the square. Our guest speaker will be Mr. Chris Jones, who is a physicist. I think I'm saying it properly. He's a minister, and he is a candidate for governor of Arkansas. Pastor Buffington is over that mark, and he has on the committee. That's the good thing about NAACP. I am not doing this alone. I've got some great people, the executive committee membership, general membership, who are in here, and they are working with the vision. And so I'm grateful for that. But we're going to have that Freedom March on Saturday, 10 a.m. And then on Monday, we will be at Revival Center Church of God in Christ. Our official Martin Luther King celebration will be 6 p.m. Our guest speaker is Chanel Yarbrough out of El Dorado, Arkansas. We got a real treat, a celebration going on, and you guys pray for what we are trying to do, and pray that the pandemic does not stop us anymore. We're still going to be watching, and everything that we do, we're going to be following the CDC regulations. So if at any point we have to go virtual, then we will go virtual. And listen, we can celebrate Martin. We don't care if it's March or April. So if we decide not to go virtual, we won't push it, but we'll come back in and do what needs to be done. The doors are still open everywhere, and we're just trying to work our way through this. Our theme is justice plus equality equals progress. I could have gone and gotten a national theme, but for me, this is the theme that we need for our area, is the fact that we don't make progress if we're not moving towards justice, real justice, and real equality. Thank you again, Pastor Darrell Daniels of the Word Church. And thank you, Pastor Jerome Pace of the Great I Am Temple, right here. Both churches are in Monticello, Arkansas, for joining me tonight. God bless you. I'm President Clarissa Pace of the NAACP Branch 6042. God bless you and good night.
Right.